Hello, everyone. Welcome to the XCOMTB.com/the A-Line podcast post-race show for Nove Mesto Morave. I did a terrible job of pronouncing that, but we'll roll with it. Yeah. I mean, we've got my special correspondent here. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Joe Curran, and I've been here at the race, pitting and mechanicking and cooking and stuff for Grace Ingalls, who's in the elite field.
Yeah, so Joe had the joy of driving out the other week, didn't you? The pre-race with the camper van and stuff. So
Yeah, savage drive, and I think I've still got a bit of a cold, so apologies for that because I think that drive finished me off.
Oh, devastating. I mean, no, you are post-race now and you're an hour ahead, so I've got a cup of Earl Grey in front of me, and Joe, for those of you watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see Joe's on the beers, so...
Some sort of hells, I don't know what it is, but it was 99 cents. It was pretty tasty.
Happy days. So, we'll roll into it. We're going to try and do this each World Cup round. So, first up is obviously short track, which happened on the Saturday. So, obviously, it was the shorter format. For those not that familiar with it, it was quite a tame course from what I could see online. A lot of the riders electing to run almost like more of a gravel type tyre. I don't know if you picked up anything, Joe?
Yeah, there was some pretty narrow tyres kicking about. I don't know exactly what size they were, but yeah, very narrow and pretty slick. Because there wasn't really anything, bit of tarmac, and then the descents were just flowy jumps with a couple of berms. So yeah, not too much to go at tech-wise.
No, and then like course-wise, there was some rain early in the week, but it all cleared off by race day, and it went back to the classic sort of dusty conditions, didn't it? We've seen a few times. Obviously, we've seen some very wet years too. But the short track, the course was, like you say, quite gravelly, quite smooth, quite bike parky. There was the main feature that played quite a bit of a role was the kind of like the big wall ride thing. That was absolute carnage.
Yeah, Grace crashed on that on the first practice lap, I think, the day before the race. I think it was a little bit tricky, even just kind of riding it on your own.
Yeah.
Lots of places to catch you out still.
Yes, but Grace wasn't in the short track, was she, on this occasion?
No, sorry, the day before the main race.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, but no, they was included in both circuits, so yeah, we've been practicing both. But it was interesting coming into this race because we had riders that chose to like sit out the Brazil block to come into a bit fresher, perhaps more of the European riders. So, and we had some riders coming in from the road, not for necessarily short track, but there was a lot of like new faces coming into the short track and the XCO, weren't there?
Yeah, Puck Peters coming in off a bit of a really good start to the road season. A few months in, some big wins, and Alan Hatherley as well. Again, a couple of big performances earlier on in the year for that. I think they both did a race recently in Germany, the Hubach XC race, and yeah, both had decent performances there, but very fresh for mountain biking. Definitely not a load of racing behind them compared to the others.
Yeah, speaking of recent results in Germany, I think Luca had a good race in Germany as well recently, the short track specialist.
Yeah, he won that one.
Yeah.
Climbers course as well.
Yeah, absolute weapon. And speaking of like longer stuff, like Hayley Batten came off of what's the Lifetime Grand Prix, the first round? Is it Sea Otter? She had a great result out there.
Oh yeah,
doing a bit of a gravel focus. So yeah, there was a lot of new and potential mix-ups coming into it. I mean, a bit of a mix-up, well, not mix-up, but someone sitting out, sadly, was Yeni Rizvez. She didn't make the start line for short track because she got sick trying to make the start line for Sunday, which is always a shame. And Jordan Sru did himself a mischief, broke his collarbone in practice on Friday. So yeah, definitely a few not very nice circumstances, unfortunately.
Yeah, a few tricky bits of practice if you're not used to the course, definitely.
And then so rolling into the short track, kind of like who's your money on and things. Obviously, it's happened, so we know the winners. But
yeah, I don't know. It's always a bit of a lottery, isn't it? Because it's kind of whoever is just in the right place at the right time can have a good chance. But I don't know. I was thinking Evie Richards might do pretty well. She's always there or thereabouts, but you can't really look past Puck, to be honest.
No, 100%. And I guess, well, we'll get onto the XCO later, but the less technical nature of the short track played into the advantage of the powerhouses like Puck, who's had that big roadblock perhaps, because, just didn't quite have it on Sunday, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the finish for the men's as well. It was incredible what Blevins did towards the end there. Shut down an absolutely huge gap on the last climb and sprinted past three people to get the win. It was pretty good.
Yeah, it was actually really good ride. It shows how smart a rider he is. He's obviously got the watts as well, but like to close the gap on the climb and then almost let it open up again on the descent. So he had that acceleration space to rush the gap and then hit everyone really hard, and then could like almost have that semi-draft the whole way up the chain and just come around at the last minute and happy days, right?
Yeah, still left himself with a lot to do.
Oh, 100%.
He had the legs to do it, though.
Yeah, I'm sure the chain dropping wasn't in part of his plan, but he certainly started out really well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Other surprising things first of all, the women's short track was I was surprised to see like Kate Courtney doing so well. She's had quite a good weekend overall, but she seems to be sort of finding her stride again, that new Allied team.
Yeah, definitely building into the season. Seems to have a pretty decent team around her. Her mechanic was quite friendly as well.
Okay.
Looking after Grace's wheels on Sunday. So, yeah, they seem like a nice bunch.
Yeah, no, so hopefully she's settled in a bit, because she had a rough few years on Scott, not quite herself, when she was back winning, it was a while ago, the World Cup when she was on Specialized. So,
hopefully good, yeah.
No, totally. She got wiped out in that big bank turn we were saying about, unfortunately, on the short track, but still had a solid performance. I didn't see who it was in the ladies' race, but someone had a huge crash and snapped their frame. Haven't been able to find out who it was on socials.
I think it was one of the live riders.
Okay.
Chainstays, but I might be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was the chainstays. That was just a clip of her carrying a bike off the course with no chainstay, basically. Yeah, it was a really good race to watch, the short track, as always. Very close, very tight racing, and it just basically exploded on the final race. The final climb with the women's, didn't it? And led out the final sprint, held on to it, solid.
Yeah, good effort all round.
Totally. And then moving on to the men's, as expected, our man Luca dropped an absolute whop bomb off the start, as he always does. And then Azara had a huge crash on lap 2. He seems to be crashing a lot this year. He's had a few DNFs, but didn't obviously affect him rolling into Sunday. And then it was just smart racing by most people. Another big crash on the wall ride on the final lap. And then, as we said, Blevins had a phenomenal last lap despite the chain coming off, and managed to take another win. It's a great start to the year, hasn't he, really?
Yeah. We were watching it was towards the top of that long climb where they were getting filmed by the quad bike thing. And yeah, every lap, it looked hard, but no one was really kind of attacking too much, I think. It's not maybe not quite hard enough course to let someone just get away and ride off the front. So I think it kind of lends itself to people sitting in a little bit and kind of banking on the sprint at the end, possibly, that course. So yeah, it was quite good, quite tight racing all the way through.
Definitely. And maybe that's something that's like developed out of short track coming on the scene, is we're seeing more courses like Brazil, like Lake Placid last year, where they have the big technical features and they have the climbs and whatnot, but in the single track, but they also have some really nice big open sections, so that team tactic doesn't come like someone can't just spank it off the front on the first lap and make it stick, because they're just going to get hunted down. So yeah, it's really cool to see, I think.
I think that used to happen more a few years ago when short track first came in, maybe, because they did have some more like brutal climbs in the short track, but now it does seem to lend itself to closer racing a little bit.
Yeah,
just a bit more suspenseful.
Yeah, it's kind of gone from like, I don't know, like a mini XCO lap to like almost like a mix between four cross and like a grassy crit, which is mega, making for some great racing. So yeah, have you got any other thoughts on the short track, or should we roll into the XCO?
Yeah, it was just the first one I've watched live.
Okay,
and it was pretty cool, good atmosphere, really good on the climb. Enjoyed it. I'll be doing the rest of them, I think, and hopefully Grace might be in one going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get on to like how Grace is going maybe at the end, but like, how far off in the rankings is she of getting a short track start?
I was surprised actually, because when we signed on, she was on the reserve list for the short track.
Oh, cool!
And when I collected her number, I got really excited because I thought they said she was in the short track.
Yeah,
but then turns out she was just the reserve. But I don't think they used any reserves in the women's.
Okay,
so she didn't get in. But
so
not too far off.
No, exactly. Has she got much experience in the short track, or?
I think she's done about one, maybe.
Okay.
In the UK.
Yeah, that's a no.
Hanging out in the back of the guys for a few laps.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely not. It would be useful to get in, I think.
No, 100%. More racing is more racing, right? So it's all good experience and exposure. But we're rolling into the XCO, and yeah, I guess the main thing to chat about initially is just the course. We said it was wet for the initial practice. They've done a lot of work to it, though, haven't they, by the looks of it?
Yeah. I've seen this course on TV for years and years, and it's very, very similar to what it used to be ages ago, but just a few tweaks. And it was unreal. Yeah, really impressive. Some of the rock gardens look so scary. The climbs just savage, really long, brutal, steep sections, rough, and it's just great because there's nowhere on the course that's like kind of just trying to get you to somewhere else where there's another good trail over there.
Yeah,
It's like every single bit of the course has a purpose, and yeah, just all around excellent course. And I wish I was doing it.
yeah, totally. I mean, obviously, like you're quite a handy rider and things, and are based in like the Tweed Valley, so quite exposed to rowdy trails. You know, it's not like you're living in the centre of London or something. Like how spicy is it? Do you know what I mean? For the average rider out
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Uh, Most of it's not that spicy. I think, like a lot of the descents, there's a lot of things that you have to get right. But there are definitely the sections like the rock gardens and the drops and stuff, which yeah, they are spicy. Um, Definitely like way over a sort of black trail center level that
Yeah,
you'd get in the UK. Um, and you have to kind of check it out first, look at your lines, get everything sorted out before you head into them.
yeah, and that's the thing. They are like pinning it as well. They're not just like surviving, bumping down. They're like shooting gaps. They're like pre-jumping stuff. They're doing all sorts, aren't they? It's like it's impressive. Once you get
Yeah.
up to race speed, it's a very different kettle of fish, and that's where we maybe saw perhaps some of the riders that didn't have so much time on the mountain bike this year coming unstuck in the XCO.
Yeah, I think some people did drop into it from not doing loads of mountain biking. I don't know if they have been doing it in training though.
No, of
You don't
course.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably quite a difficult one to do that at.
Yeah, and watching on the TV, it looked like they toned down some of the climbs, like just done some repairs and things to make them a bit more rideable. Because like last year, we saw a lot of riders having to walk occasionally on the climbs because it was just so. It's an old course now, isn't it? It's just so beaten up. Some of the holes, some of the routes are turned. It's like almost like a set of steps. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Some of it still looks pretty original and pretty rough,
yeah,
and even with that sort of fixing up, still pretty rough. But yeah, all of them are rideable as long as you kind of pick the right lines, don't make any mistakes. Millions of different lines to choose from on some of the climbs.
yeah.
Lots of options if you want to get past people,
Mm,
or if you just prefer doing something else, you can kind of pick a different line. But yeah, all in all, great course.
definitely. And then coming into it, who was like your sort of money on any dark horses you had your eye on, perhaps, and things?
Well, for the women's, I think Puck Peters, like she
Yeah,
hasn't done any this year, but I think she would probably be one of my favourites. And Candice as well, Candice
yeah.
Lill, she's on a good year.
No.
She's been looking really good, and yeah, thought she might have been up there for the win as well.
Yeah.
What about you?
I thought on watching the short track, I was surprised by how well Yolanda went. So I was thinking she might be back in the game because
Mm.
she's won before, at Nove Mesto. So I was like, oh, could this be Yolanda coming back? That was she was kind of like my top pick. And then just you can never write off Keller, can you? She's just a phenomenal rider and a big powerhouse. So yeah, those are sort of the two Swiss ladies.
Yeah.
And then, well, we mentioned like Yenny got sick, but then Evie apparently picked up a bug over the weekend as well. So it was
All right.
not far. I think she finished about 29th or something. So had a rough day, but still went out and got it done. Yenny did start, but I think she pulled out after like 3 laps. So it wasn't a good day for her. So hopefully she can shake off wherever it is and get back in the game soon enough. But
Yeah.
yeah, moving on to the women's race itself. How was the start and things being down there? How was it in the pits and whatnot?
Looked pretty hectic from where I was standing.
Yeah,
It's a bit interesting this year though because they grid everybody on the start line. There's 8 riders per row,
yeah,
and then you get like called up in order. You have to kind of go in your slot, and you can't go forward past the line. But in previous years, when all the helpers kind of clear off, and it's just the riders there, they all just bunch forward
yeah,
and kind of try and squeeze through gaps. So if you're like really good at squeezing past people, you can start quite a bit further up than someone else on your row who maybe isn't.
yeah,
Um, but this year they've said that they're like enforcing the whole you have to stay behind your line
yeah,
type thing, which I think is much safer because everyone's starting with space between them
yeah,
rather than all like bars tangling and that sort of thing. So that's a lot better, I think, and I'm pleased they've done that because it's something where it was a rule, but it wasn't enforced.
Hmm.
So that makes it a little bit less hectic. But yeah, start loop was long climb, and then the kind of last descent on the course all the way from the top.
Yeah.
So if you did have a bad start, there's a bit of opportunity to get past people, but it's not particularly wide. So
No.
Yeah, you're going to have to spend some energy to do that, I think.
Definitely. And yeah, on the topic of the start, we Samara Macro or Sammy Maxwell didn't have a great start because she didn't have the best short track. I think she got caught in that crash, but did manage to pull forward quite well. And like Puck had a phenomenal start as expected, really, because front of the grid and she was riding strong. Although she like the rule is you've got to ride the same bike for the short track and the XCO, right? But
yeah,
she had a different color frame entirely.
We were talking about this the other day because I think when you're a world champ or a national champ or something, maybe you can have a different one.
Okay.
I don't know, because usually you get a sticker to put on, then you
Yeah.
have to have the same one, I think. But I don't know what the rule is for if you've got like a special painted frame. Maybe you can switch it out for the other race. I'm not sure.
So that'd be quite an in-depth rule, wouldn't it? She'd have to replace it with exactly the same frame and all that. Like you couldn't swap out a hardtail for a full sus bike. Although Cervelo did it a few years ago. Do you remember that? The Cervelo team. They took the shock out, didn't they? Put like an aluminium rod in instead. That was brilliant. But no, yeah, Puck had a brilliant start, and actually I think it was the first or second lap, Ruben from XCOMTB.com got his face on telly. Normally he's behind the camera, and there's a slow-mo Puck go through the rock garden. Ruben's just sort of staring at his camera, looking a bit confused, but like he's deep in thought, trying to get a photo. So yeah, if you watch the replay, then keep an eye for Ruben. So yeah, that made my day. But no, going back to the race itself, Candice, who you mentioned, had a really good start as well. Was up into the top 3 early on, and then Puck sadly picked up a flat tyre on lap 3 and managed to make it back to the pits, didn't she? Get a wheel change, but then kind of bled time. And from the home, it looked like she was making a lot of mistakes and trying to like force it perhaps to get back on.
Yeah, because by the time she'd finished the kind of wheel change, she was about a minute 16 down, I think. So she did lose quite a lot of time from getting to the pits and then getting the change.
Yeah.
And then she was having to work her way back through, which is a bit more difficult. But she did make a bit back initially, maybe on the first lap or two, but then, yeah, didn't really make any more progress after that.
Yeah, I think it was maybe that initial, like, not panic, but it's that, like, you just get a big whack of adrenaline, don't you? Like, you stop in the pits, have a drink or whatever, and it's like, oh, let's go. And then you just, the wheels start to fall off after that, maybe. But it's still a really solid ride. And to make back time is still really impressive, right? So
she looked impressive. She didn't care who was on her wheel. She was just gunning it and just riding people off the wheel, trying to move up.
There was a bit where the cameras were on her shortly after she left the pits. And, like, Cena Fry was, like, up with her, and Puck just went up like she was on a motorbike. It was absolutely insane. So yeah, really strong ride. But that did allow Sammy Maxwell and then Mona Mitterwarner to get out in front. We haven't really seen much from Mona last year. She had quite a rough one, I think, didn't she, with getting sick at the Cape Epic and whatnot, and then a bit of a rough start to this year. Apparently had a ski training accident which like put her off the bike for like about a month. So yeah, to see her coming back to the front of the race was really cool. And like, not obviously, like, there's a various body types in cycling, isn't there? But like, Mona's not known as more of a climber, perhaps, and things, and coming like she's very good at the marathon side of the sport. So to see her coming through on such like a power, punchy style course is really cool to see, right?
Yeah, bodes well for the next few races potentially if they might suit her more. Possibly, don't know.
Yeah, it seems to be going around that Mondraker as well. New team for this year because she was on Cannondale Factory last year, wasn't she? And so mix things up.
Yeah.
But it was Maxwell and Mona like went together on the last lap, and then Maxwell had a mistake and got tangled up in those weird shafts and tape they have to mark the course out with her pedal on the rock garden, and then Mona just cracked on from there. But I was really impressed by Sammy. She put in a huge dig and finished on the same second in the end, so it's a phenomenal finish, and she was like chewing the bars off that rock rider. But yeah, it was a great ride for both of those ladies. And I mean, it says a lot. Mona put in the fastest lap of the race on the last lap, so that's quite a strong ride, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to be strong to do that, definitely.
Like they weren't going slow at the start, that's for sure.
Yeah,
And then Candice Lil with a strong ride, like really starting to find her stride this season now, I think, and finished third. So yeah, that was really cool as well. Any other
yeah,
insights from your side of the fence? And obviously how Grace went too.
yeah. I think there were a few punctures, not loads. I think probably more in the men's race for punctures.
Okay.
But I think they were mostly rear wheel from what I saw. Definitely, you can't kind of, don't know. It's you maybe have to knock it back slightly in the rocks
Yeah.
because there's quite a few opportunities there. If you get slightly offline, just nipping that rear wheel. So yeah, people nursing the bikes around slightly, which I did feel bad about because I forgot to do Grace's pressures and on the start line remembered. So I tried to let them down and do them by hand,
Yeah.
and then managed to borrow a pressure gauge off the guy next to me. Realized that they only had 11 psi in.
Oh.
So yeah, she had to really be quite careful. So I'm not going to forget that next time.
No, definitely not. It's all part of the learning process, right?
Yeah,
It's that funny thing though, isn't it, of XCO? Like obviously say downhill is kind of like full send, isn't it? Enduro, there's quite an attacking mentality, but there's no point going like a second quicker in the rock garden if you're just gonna slice a tyre or something like that, or however huge is there.
yeah, and you need a bit of rest as well.
Yeah, it's that you got to be able to recover. It's maybe better to stand a little bit taller, relax, let the bike do a lot of the work rather than fully send it. Look, but then again, they were sending it. The 80% speed for some of the top guys and girls is still pinned, isn't it? So
Still scary to watch. Yeah,
100%, 100%. But no, we'll roll into the. Oh, we didn't say about like Grace's result and things.
yeah. She went backwards off the start. She was
Okay.
gridded on the 6th row out of maybe like 9 or something.
Yeah.
But she went backwards a bit because she hasn't done any races with lots of people in. Really, she's only done a couple.
Yeah.
So finds it hard to elbows out,
Yeah.
get through people and be in a bunch. So she was pretty much, well, I think she was last after that. And then worked her way back up, sitting in the sort of low 50s and then pulled back to 48th at the end. So I think she did enjoy it. It was a good race, good atmosphere, nice course and stuff, but I think she feels like she could maybe have a better race on a different day
Yeah.
than a different course. So looking forward to the next one.
But didn't get lapped out, right?
Nope, first one she's finished,
So
which is great.
yeah.
Yeah. I think she only managed 3 or 4 laps there last year.
Okay.
So, and that was our first ever World Cup. So
Yeah.
big improvement on that. Looking forward to the next ones.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like obviously every course has pinch points and stuff, but like Nove Mesto, like the climbs and stuff, if you are right at the back on that first lap, it's going to be a bit of a hiker bike almost. So to be at that much of a disadvantage, considering how far the front's going, to not get lapped out is mega. So it's really good.
Yeah, even just after the start loop, I think the gap was 50 seconds to the leaders by the end of that, and that was just one climb and one descent, just with everyone kind of. That's less than a second a rider.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of one line coming through the finish.
Definitely.
So it's immediately, decent gap straight away.
Yeah, but some good points in the bag, so hopefully start moving on up.
Yeah, on the way there.
Yeah, and then so we'll move on to the men's race. It was we saw the return of Matthew van der Poel, and he had a bad day out, didn't he? Not the best. Bless him.
Yeah, I was wondering how he'd do because I think I'm a big fan, and I think he probably could win it on his day, based on other performances. But yeah, I think probably not quite used to the bike, maybe, or enough time on it, or whatever. I don't know. Maybe he has been, just was unlucky.
Yeah.
Don't know. But yeah, probably not the finish he wanted to have. A crash on the first climb.
Yeah.
And then another crash, like maybe a lap later on a descent.
Yeah, I think it tied into what you're saying. Like it was quite wide in places that first climb, but not wide enough. And he was trying to force the gap, trying to go on the outside, wasn't he? And then tangle bars and so on, and then was into the tape. Obviously that's not too big a deal. But yeah, the second crash he had on the final descent on those doubles, the front wheel just sort of disappeared. It's like he forgot to pop off the jump or something. It was a weird one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an odd one. Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
No,
I didn't see anyone else crash there the whole weekend.
No.
yeah, not really too sure what happened, but
No, a bit like his Olympics one
it
back in
happened.
Beijing. No, not Beijing. It
Yeah,
was no, Tokyo. That was
Tokyo.
it. Tokyo. Yeah, front wheel just disappeared. But I mean, he has been on the road bike a lot, and I did look at his bike check before the race, and he's run a 115 mil stem, minus 22 degrees. So that's not going to be very easy to pull up on.
I thought you were joking about that when you
No,
messaged.
seriously. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like he has got the world's best bike, of course, the Canyon Lux. Like they're what all the best people ride, right? But he has stuck the 120mm fork on it to try and slacken it out and obviously get a bit more bounce up the front. But that's a big stem to be running on a cross country mountain bike, isn't it?
yeah. Maybe it did contribute. I don't know.
Definitely.
Who are we to tell him more?
Yeah, but it was. He did put on a brave ride after that, got back in the game, but he did then pull out on lap 3. I think he'd realised that the damage was done. Maybe he'd tweaked something. Well, he was so far back as well. There was not much point continuing to a degree, which is never good to see. But it was likewise a bad day for Sam Gaze as well, on the same bike in the same team, who had a big crash off camera and had to retire. So we don't know what happened to him. But no, everyone else in the race. There was just a massive group off at the start. Charlie Aldridge snapped his chain on the first lap, unfortunately, but yeah, put on a brave ride to still finish the race. Nino, can't talk about mountain biking, or men's race anyway, without talking about Nino. So he stayed in the top 20 the whole race, but I think he finished like 18th or 19th, so nothing special. But, you know, he's not a spring chicken anymore, is he, bless him?
Yeah, he's still got it, though.
Yeah.
Still got it. He'll get another win this year, probably in Switzerland.
Yeah, I think his good days are still good, but just his bad days are just a bit badder now, if that makes sense. Like a bad day for Nino would be 5th before, but now a bad day for him is 20th. But we saw him win last year, not on a good day. So I think, yeah, he's still got it, but not as consistently, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, good to see Nino though, always. And then, interestingly, I don't know if you noticed this, but Alan and Luca, so Alan Hafley and Luca Schwarzbauer, like really seems to be struggling with eyewear. Alan changed his glasses during the race, and then he was like taking them off for the clients and putting them onto the descent, or vice versa. But it was really weird. Certain places, because I don't know what the sun was like. You were obviously there, but like certain parts of the course, he had them off, and then he put them on for others.
Oh, that's weird. Because Grace was finding that in practice as well, actually, with the glasses. Couldn't really decide which ones to use because different parts of the course were, different levels of shadow and stuff. So maybe it was to do with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was very bright in the pits, and when the sun was out, it was quite hot and probably quite different under the trees.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then, well, speaking of Alan, on Giant Factory for this part, he's on what's it called? Giant, is it Jayco on the road?
Yeah, Jayco.
That's it. But he's with Giant Factory for the off-road bit, and he seems to be going quite well considering the lack of mountain bike time. He's on that new bike as well, which is very different to the Cannondale, but still, a good bike, obviously. So yeah, it's interesting to see him going well on it. So yeah, back in the mix.
Yeah, he was up there in fighting for the podium until right at the end, and then a bit of an issue in the rock garden, pedal strike or something, and went down. But pretty close.
Definitely. It's like the skills don't seem to... He hasn't fully forgotten them, perhaps, like Matthew. But he's like, dusted them off a bit better, perhaps. So he's the world champ as well, current reigning world champ. So we can't argue with that too much, can you?
Yeah. Everyone makes mistakes. It's fine.
Exactly. But no, and then it was a really good race. We saw some, quite a big group up front, which was quite nice. And saw some, less familiar names, like Albin and... My kind of before we say, who's your dark horse pick for the race, perhaps, coming in?
I thought Van der Poel was going to win.
Okay.
I had to pick someone. I really did. I think he'd get over the fact that he hasn't been doing much, and I thought he'd be able to win on the climbs, really. But so that one didn't last long.
Okay. Because I was just about to say, so Puntner had another fantastic race, the Swiss rider, privateer this year, because the team folded just before the season started, unfortunately. But because he was phenomenal in Brazil, really attacking one the what's it called, the Lantern Rouge or something, I think. So he had a great race, and it was good to see him up in the front here, in the much earlier in the race and getting in the mix, getting stuck in. So that was mega to see. So yeah, getting some lesser known names, not just the same top 5, is really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then there was a big wobble from Blevins, which you don't normally see because he is just Mr. Steez. He's got great bike handling skills. He had a bit of a wobble on lap 5 and took a bit of a knock to the family jewels, and, but still managed to ride it out and stay in that main group. And then it was just fireworks really after that. Lap 7, he kicked on, made an attack. Everyone was kind of like looking. No one could really follow because they'd been tearing chunks out of each other. And then it was a 3-horse race for second place, really, with Forster and Koretsky. But then Azaro, he actually put it together and timed it perfectly, essentially. Got led out by the other two and snuck around at the end to take second place. So a phenomenal ride for Origin. Is that how you say it? Origin?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Not as big as like Specialized Factory bike brand, but still a big bike brand. So it's cool to see them on the podium. It's quite a cool looking bike as well.
New team.
Yeah. And it was Lars Foster who came over the line in third. So good to see him back, like finding his stride again as the season rolls on.
Yeah, decent sprint as well. It was quite exciting. Didn't really know who was going to get that. It was very tight all the way to the end.
Definitely. No, it was mega. It was it's been a really rad weekend of racing. Some surprises, some pleasant and unpleasant ones. And yeah, it was just really good. And now I guess then looking ahead to what's next, what have we got next round-wise?
We've got in 2 weeks' time Leogang in Austria.
Okay.
I heard someone said the course was going to be a bit different, maybe further up the hill or something than it has been.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but we're going to try and head there fairly soon and have a look at it a little bit early if we can.
Nice.
Then, should be a good race.
Yeah, then we got Val d'Isole after that, right?
Yep, 2 weeks again afterwards, next round in Italy. So a couple of good ones coming up.
Yeah, definitely. We are starting to hit that like rhythm to it now, aren't we? Which is cool. Any kind of thoughts and about those rounds, looking ahead, like what riders might be in the mix?
Yeah, I don't know. Leogang, I can't remember what that course is like. It hasn't been, I don't know if it was on last year. I can't remember. But Val d'Isole, very, very technical. Last year it was an absolute dust bowl. It might not be this year because it's pretty wet at the minute.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe someone who likes a bit of wet conditions might do well there. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the Swiss riders. I'll go for a Swiss.
Okay. Yeah. In the women's, I think Mona, she's going to be riding a wave of confidence coming out of this race, and it's a home round for her. So I imagine she'll go well. Seems to be finding her feet. Like, as a wider observation, perhaps, are we seeing the sport levelling up and the road riders struggling to do the flirting back and forth so much now?
Could be, yeah. I think a few years ago when Van der Poel did it in the past and just dropped in and won everything, was it 2018 or
something like
2019 or something?
Yeah.
And he won the World Cup. I think that's a bit harder to do now. Everyone else seems to be a lot faster on the downhills. Courses might be a bit harder. Level definitely has gone up since then. So I think maybe struggle to do that.
Yeah.
And might be worth putting more mountain bike races in this year before the Worlds.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, because I guess, like you said, the downhills at Nove Mesto didn't necessarily change a great deal from last year. But if you're just doing them 5k an hour faster, they're going to be harder, right?
Yeah. Definitely getting quicker. Bikes are getting better. Everyone's getting faster. It's great.
Yeah, no, it is really cool. And it is interesting to think how riders like, say, Pidcock and Van der Poel and Puck, who like flirt between the two, are going to play it. So they want world champs at the end of the day. No, that's what matters to those riders. That's their priority, which is fair enough. But they need to accrue enough points still throughout the season to get a good grid in to have a shot at that world champ. So you can't be starting at the back, can you, and trying to win?
Yeah, there is a rule, though, that if you are in the top 10 in the road or the cross rankings, you can start on the 4th or 5th row, maybe. Might be 5th row. So you don't have to start right from the back if you haven't got the points. So I think they might be taking advantage of that.
So is that why Matthew managed to get so far forward into 30th or something? Yeah.
Yeah, because he started in like 33rd, I think.
Brilliant. That's good to know. I mean, you got to play to the rules, right?
Yeah. I think they brought it in for him. Basically, when he did the Glen Tress Worlds and just dropped in for that. They made that rule like 2 days before the race or something.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's amazing. But then, no, really exciting. Let us know what you think, of course, in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and obviously check out the A-Line podcast on various podcast apps too. But the final thing is to just ask, what are your guys' plans then? Are you staying out in Europe for a bit of a block, or?
Yeah, in the camper van. I'm in there now. And yeah, Leogang, 2 weeks' time. And then we're going to squeeze in a race in France as well, in between Leogang and Val de Sol. It's an HC. I think it's one of the French Cups, so should be good points, which is important to move further up the grid.
Yep.
And yeah, so 3 more races left and then heading home.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, yeah, be sure to head to XCOMTB.com for all the latest news and updates and get the inside line on the races. Obviously, follow on Instagram as well, XCOMTB.com, and also the A-Line podcast. Obviously, check out Joe Curran and Grace Ingles' accounts too to get the inside try and the perspective from the pits, all that sort of good stuff. But unless you've got anything else to say, Joe, we'll leave it there, shall we?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. See you all later.
See ya.